Hey everyone, I'm Megyn Kelly. Welcome to the Megyn Kelly Show. There's so much to go over. It's so fun. I was saying to my friend today, the news cycle right now is like you wake up every morning and you find out, I got a raise. And then the next morning you're like, I got another raise. It has that feeling like yet another thing I really wanted that's going to improve my life and the life of my fellow countrymen has happened. And not just one thing, but a whole swath of things. The goodness just keeps on coming in droves. It's totally delightful. And for once, covering the news is uplifting. I always think covering the news is pretty fun. I mean, almost always. But it's not always like uplifting. But it's totally uplifting right now. Let's ride it. We deserve it. A new day in America, everyone, as President Trump takes swift action during week one back in the White House. And to coincide with all this good news, CNN is basically imploding. I mean, its implosion is becoming more official by the day. I mean, I'm sorry to see people get laid off, and it's happening by the hundreds over there today. But I'm not sorry to see potentially chief Trump antagonist Jim Acosta lose his job. I'm not sorry. He deserves it. He had promise as like a tough but fair reporter back in the day, and he completely sold his soul to be TDS example number one. I mean, is there anybody who's got worse Trump derangement syndrome? I mean, he's got ties. Rick Wilson, Lincoln Project, Jennifer Rubin, but like, I don't know if he's got somebody worse, like masquerading as a straight news reporter in the mainstream media. Olbermann, yeah, obviously he's terrible, but he's not masquerading as objective. Plus, we've got to spend a minute on the Oscar nominations. They didn't get the memo about the massive shift in our cultural landscape and about how we are done. We are done with the gender madness crusade. So we'll go over how they are sending their countercultural message to us with the fellas from Ruthless, who are here today for the full show. Josh Holmes, Michael Duncan, John Ashbrook, and the man known to his minions as Comfortably Smug. You can find all their work at ruthlesspodcast.com. Don't miss a moment. Subscribe to this show on YouTube and follow me on Insta, Facebook, and X. 4 years of crushing interest rates, runaway inflation, and reckless government spending. And who is paying the price? You are. You might have bills stacking up, debt collectors on your back. You might barely be able to keep food on the table these days. Well, Done with Debt can be a way out. They have developed new aggressive strategies designed to get you out of debt permanently without bankruptcy or loans. Done with Debt stands between you and your bill collectors. They can go head to head with creditors, getting balances reduced, interest rates slashed, and penalties stopped. They create a plan to end your debt fast and put more cash in your pocket every month. And right now, Done with Debt is accepting new clients. But you need to act fast. Some credit relief programs expire. Before you make another payment, consider a visit to donewithdebt.com or just call 1-888-322-1054 right now. Speak with one of their debt relief strategists for free. Go to donewithdebt.com. That's donewithdebt.com. Guys, welcome back.
Oh, Megyn, so good to be back. It's just a good day. Golden era here in America.
Golden age.
Do you agree with my feeling of like you open up X in the morning and you're like, yeah, come on. It's wonderful.
Totally. It's like Christmas presents each and every day. And his first full day. I mean, what a jarring culture change just in D.C. and the way the government works, right? I mean, we heard 8 good words out of Joe Biden for 6 months. You never saw the guy. If you did, he was kind of like shuffling or stammering around. They were hiding him from press. First full day, Trump's there. He does not 1, but 2 totally free, unwielding press conferences where he's asked and answered literally every question anybody could come up with. It was incredible.
It's like the vigor is back in the White House. Not only did Joe Biden do the shuffle and the falling upstairs, downstairs, across a beach, but like then swords and J.D. Vance and Trump, and like it's just vigor. Vigor has returned. I don't know how Trump does it. He's 78 years old, but you can tell this is like he truly could run all of us under the table with his energy level. I truly don't understand it. He's superhuman in this way. This is not fangirl, sycophant, cult member talk. It's an objective fact. There's something very odd about how this man is able to withstand enormous amounts of pressure and enormous amounts of time commitments and energy zaps without falling apart.
Yeah, it's not just energy, Megan. I mean, he has all of these impromptu flourishes of showmanship. Did you see how he handled the signing of these executive orders? He pulled his staff secretary into the frame and had him describe, "Hey, just tell us a little bit about what I'm signing here." "Oh, yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great. Okay, what's this one?"
This was a beautiful one. People have been asking about this one for years.
The live commentary.
It's beautiful.
It was incredible. And the press is like, "Oh, this is not how it's supposed to work. The staff secretary is supposed to be seen but not heard. We should be the ones talking, not Trump." And it's like, no, idiots. Trump is here and he is different. He's exactly what people wanted.
And today they beamed him into Davos so he could give that great speech, and then he just opens the floor to Q&A.
It's the wildest part, right? You're doing it. It's one thing to do the American press corps, but you're like 3 days into a new administration. And you're like, you know what? Let's take the world's biggest economic leaders.
Yeah.
What you got? Just throw it.
What's on your mind? No, it's amazing. It's like, I wonder, as a member of the media, like whether they're starting to feel like, you know what? This could be a lot of fun. Maybe I don't have to hate this fake Hitler. Maybe I could really enjoy covering this guy for the entertaining person he is, who clearly loves the country and has an agenda that now has wide swaths of support. I was just looking at the Real Clear Politics average for Trump right now. His approval rating currently is at 53. 53, you guys. This is a 3-4 days into all these executive orders, crushing DEI, crushing the gender madness, crushing the green energy excesses. He's at 53.
I think, you pointed out on X this morning, there was even an article in Politico where they said, it's time to admit Trump is a great president. There has been a significant shift. I think a lot of the smarter people in the media have picked up on when someone wins a landslide victory and the popular vote, clearly the people have spoken. And if you're a journalist, there's nothing left to try to grift your way into a book deal saying that this is Hitler or anything. The people have spoken loud and clear. And you look at the guy, he's having the time of his life. It's because I think part of it is he's reflecting the energy right back at people. When I was struck, when we were done recording our episode yesterday, I'm driving past the White House and I just smiled. And it struck me, it's been a while since I was excited about where our country's going, the people we have in charge. Good days are ahead. That kind of optimism had been completely crushed out of the American people for 4 years. The American people are ready to be happy.
I'm like running over to my kitchen table in the morning to see what's in the New York Times, what's in the Washington Post, or what's in the Wall Street Journal, what's in the New York Post. I can't wait to see. And just getting on X and seeing, and we'll go through for the audience what Trump did yesterday and all the greatest executive orders that are still coming and what he's doing. But let's just start with that Politico piece because my jaw dropped, Smug. I'm like, what is this from Politico? Like, yeah. I thought it might be a Spectator piece, when I first saw the language grab from it. No, Politico's John F. Harris with a post this morning. He is the founding editor and global editor-in-chief of Politico. This is not some low-ranking, occasional columnist. He kind of is Politico, founding editor, global editor-in-chief. And this is what he says. The headline is "Time to Admit It. Trump is a great president. He's still trying to be a good one." And then he goes on to say as follows. All right. The second occasion of Trump taking the oath of office put him in an entirely new light. For the first time, he is holding power under circumstances in which reasonable people cannot deny a basic fact. He is the greatest American figure of his era. Let's quickly exhale. Great in this context is not about a subjective debate over whether he is a singularly righteous leader or a singularly menacing one. It is now simply an objective description about the dimensions of his record. He began a decade ago by dominating the Republican Party. He soon advanced to dominating every discussion of American politics broadly. Now his astonishing comeback after his defeat by Biden in 2020 and the notoriety of the January 6th riot makes clear there are certain things he is not, and one big thing he is. He is not a fluke. He is not someone the American public somehow misunderstands. He is someone with an ability to perceive opportunities that most politicians do not, and forge powerful, sustained connections with large swaths of people in ways that no contemporary can match. In other words, he is a force of history. There's more which we'll get to, but let's just stop there. What does it mean to you guys to see this kind of a piece in Politico?
Well, John is one of the few and rare journalists, kind of the old school, who observationally understand, right? And they don't deny reality, right? The sky is blue. And I think if you talk to the people who covered Trump for a long time, they kind of all come to a similar conclusion, which is this guy won a popular vote. Everybody knows who he is. I mean, there's not a single American wandering around who doesn't have an opinion on Donald Trump one way or another. And the majority of this country wants him, right? So the fluke is gone. And that did burden him, I think, for the first 4 years. We're on a very different path. And the thing that I find so interesting about this one is his lack of fear and his lack of hesitation to pursue exactly what it is that he said he would do. There's no nuance. There's no sort of sanding the edges to try to make things a little bit more politically nice for some edges of the electorate. He's just doing his stuff, and he's doing what he said he was going to do. And there's a confidence that exudes from that. And, with all of those executive orders, and we can talk about, them specifically, but they all just basically are what the American people wanted to have happen.
Yes.
And so, if you're a journalist, what's not to understand about it?
Right. No, I think the headline is a triumph. And I think it is because Trump earned that. I mean, if you think about all of the ups and downs of the last 10 years, nobody in some back room decided that they were going to engineer Trump into that job. No, everybody was against him the entire time. And he kept coming back and he kept fighting. And now he's got the press basically crying uncle on the front page. I think it's a triumph.
Yeah, I think the media definitely wanted to think he was a fluke, right?
Oh, for sure.
I feel
it was like a unique moment in time.
Hillary was so weak.
Yeah. And that's how they covered him. But it's undeniable now, not just his comeback to the White House, but the way in which it happened. And Ashbrook alluded to it. I mean, this guy was indicted in 3 jurisdictions over 40 times. He was, 2 assassination attempts, one that put a bullet through his ear. And he overcomes all of that to be returned to the White House.
It's really a testimony to that old adage that the only way to lose is to quit trying.
Yeah.
I mean, he really is. I mean, if you think about it that way, and in the context of everybody's lives, I mean, this guy had every reason in the world to walk away.
And every excuse.
Yeah.
Living a great life, very successful, playing golf every day.
Yeah, what's not about
listening the desire to continue living.
I mean,
you give me that option to play 18 at Mar-a-Lago every day. I'm not sure I'm walking back into 1600.
Or a place in Scotland. No, I know. It's becoming very clear that the great comeback tour is far more beneficial to Trump and the country than a straight 8 would have been for him, because he was able to flush old staff that was not working well for him and bring in new blood and come in with, as Don Jr. said in this show when he was predicting what would happen if his dad won, yes, people who are loyal. It's important to Trump, but also people who are competent. And he said the first time around, we kind of just went for competence and we forgot about the loyalty piece. And that's how you got deep state actors whose mission did not align with Trump's, Rex Tillerson being one of them. Obviously there were others like Mattis, Milley, John Kelly. They had their own agenda and their own thoughts on how it ought to be handled. And nobody elected them to do anything.
Right.
They elected Trump. So now he's got it. And everybody, it's like, I'm reading today about how we're sending all these troops to the southern border. And it's going to require a fair amount of cooperation between the military, ultimately Hegseth, and DHS, ultimately Kristi Noem. Those two will work together because they are totally on board with enacting Trump's agenda. There won't be turf wars. There won't be, getting your back up because somebody wants more than you're willing to give. Everyone will be there in service of the mission, which is Trump's mission, which is our mission, the people who put him in office.
There's no question about it.
Yeah. I think you're 100% right, is that was the missing component. And also for the American people, even when Trump came to power just now, there was a bit of kind of lowered expectations because you're like, I remember the first time there were all these people stabbing in the back. There were all these lawsuits. Everything got bogged down. You had issues with the House and the Senate garbling up his agenda, slowing it down. You have none of that this time. And the difference is loyalty. Everyone's on the same page. They learned so much from that first administration, how the media would treat them, how people that were brought in just because, oh, well, he's got the right resume, not necessarily that they are 100% loyal to Trump and his agenda, which the American people resoundingly support. So there's no need to lower expectations now. We've seen in the first 48 hours, breakneck speed, he's delivering exactly what the American people wanted.
Yeah, and there's no better
and what he said he would do.
Exactly.
Yeah, no better demonstration of competence with the fast start. I mean, those executive orders didn't just magically print in perfectly embossed fonts right off of the printer on day one. I mean, there were a lot of people who nobody will ever know their names, who worked so hard to put that stuff together and thought about, this is how the deep state's going to react against us. How are we going to structure this so that we can have the most success possible? You're never going to know their names, but
and withstand the legal challenges, Ashbrook. It's a great point, because also clearly the person who wrote, well, it's a bunch of people, but the people who wrote these executive orders foresaw the legal challenges that were coming and wrote the appropriate defensive language right into the EOs. I heard the guys at Commentary talking about this. I noticed it too. In the DEI order, like no more DEI, we're done. If you're taking federal dollars, whether you're a university or you're a subcontractor of the government, if you're pursuing a DEI agenda, you're out. You're not getting our money anymore. And they had an exception on the universities for pointing out that to criticize the policy is totally fair game. Go for it. Like, we're not trying to curb free speech on a college campus about the government, its policies, its anti-wokeness. You can do that all you want. But if you push DEI agendas, that's a different story. We don't have to give our money to you. It's been done very, very cleverly, again, by people who learned from just not only those first 4 years, but then watching what the Democrats would do when they had power.
Yeah. I mean, look, there's something to be said about having a frame of reference and knowing what you would do differently. And I think you said it really well, that this is a much better outcome in many ways than a straight 8, because you can't reset midterm, right? If he's elected to a second term. This way, I mean, not only did you get the separation of 4 years, there's people like Stephen Miller who spent the last 4 years, thinking about how you would do all of these things a lot more constructively. It also extends to Trump himself. Look, the stuff that he was talking about on the campaign trail, he didn't overpromise. He talked about a whole bunch of things that he knew he could do with the power of the executive order because he was there before. So when he talks about shutting down the border or ending DEI or all the various things that he's done over the last 48 hours, he knew he alone and his administration, if competently executed, could do it.
Yeah, I think the way I described it on our episode on Ruthless today was 2017 was like a pop quiz, where you're putting together the airplane while you're taking off. But this is more like a take-home test. We know what to expect from the other side. We know what the deep state's going to try to do to stop Donald Trump. All those executive orders written in a way to be legally just, and their strategy is just so much better. And it's just proof. And you sort of said it at the top, Megyn, but personnel is policy. If you want to accomplish all these things, you have to recruit well for the positions that are open.
Yeah.
Which is why he's doing all these mass firings, which is wonderful too. Everybody's hard to file civil servants, but he's putting them all on paid leave. Get out. We pulled that Davos shot that you guys just mentioned. Here's some of that, Trump zooming in.
My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense. And these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector. With the recent yet somewhat unexpected great Supreme Court decision just made, America will once again become a merit-based country. You have to hear that word, merit-based country. And I've made it an official policy of the United States, that there are only two genders, male and female. And we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. It's perfect because he deeply understands it, right? I mean, it's one thing if you're some politician who's told this is very popular amongst the American people and you're just trying to figure, okay, I got to check this box because I said I would. No, the way he explains it, he deeply understands it. It is not only divisive, it's racist, right?
Yeah.
And
it's illegal.
It's illegal.
Right.
I also
we decided to forget that. Go ahead, Duncan.
He doesn't have to couch it in some philosophical term or some, beautiful poetry or language. He just speaks in the plain terms that Americans understand. Nonsense. This is nonsense. I mean, it's like
he's not quite as plain spoken as Javier Milei of Argentina, who got up there and really went for it. It's in Spanish, so he didn't cut it. But man, he's always worth clicking on if you see a clip from that guy. He does not hold back. All right, let me get back to this Politico article because it's just we have to spend some time on Politico admitting all of this stuff. He goes on to say, okay, his opponents cannot push Trump to the margins. His opponents have no choice but to acknowledge he and his movement represent a large historical argument and then rally similarly large arguments to defeat it. He says the following. Okay. Trump has already demonstrated some familiar signatures of the most consequential presidents. Like influential predecessors, his arguments have shifted the terms of the debate in ways that echo within both parties. In this case, on issues such as trade, China, and the role of big corporations. Like other large presidents, Trump has been a communications innovator and exploited technological shifts more effectively than his rivals. In that sense, his use of social media recalls FDR's mastery of radio, JFK's and Ronald Reagan's mastery of television. One more signature shown by the most consequential presidents: uncommon psychological toughness. Have you ever known someone who is facing legal hurdles? In many cases, even if people ultimately win the case, they end up being consumed and shrunken by the searing nature of the experience. So true, by the way. Imagine running for president amid huge civil suits, criminal prosecutions, and even felony convictions, and then emerging from this morass as a larger figure than before. No one needs to admire the achievement to recognize that Trump is possessed by some rare traits of denial, combativeness, and resilience. And here we go down to the end where he's now quoting a historian, a liberal historian. Quote, great presidents are unifiers, mostly in retrospect. Most great presidents, he later wrote, this liberal scholar, divided the nation before reuniting it on a new level of national understanding. Then back to the political commentary. This is the same sentiment uttered by FDR, quoting FDR. All our great presidents were leaders of thought at a time when certain ideas in the life of our nation had to be clarified. God, that totally encapsulates Trump. His rise, his movement, his popularity, his gut instincts, and why they resonated so strongly, especially on the heels of 4 years of Biden-Harris with this huge piece of the American electorate.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look, it's really well said, really well put together. I think, there's one sort of lasting lesson that I think, anybody who's interested in running for president anytime in the future should learn a lot from Donald Trump, is that in order to be a leader, you actually need to do all of those things, right? It's not enough to just sort of check boxes on a poll of who is what issues are above 50 and I'm for that. You actually need to move people. You need to create atmosphere in the American democracy where people identify with it and want to get on board with it. There's no way to make substantial change whatsoever unless you build a movement that moves a block of voters who you think are here to here. Because then the lesson is for people who are in, a opposition category is, well, you got to wrap your mind around that too. And that's how change is made in this country. It's intentionally very difficult. But Donald Trump has really led a movement to take a look at China, to take a look at DEI. I mean, look, we're 4 years removed from people being terrified to even say the letters DEI in a negative connotation for fear that they would be canceled. And now you got a president of the United States signing an executive order banning it, saying this is racist. Well, it's been racist all along. But everybody was afraid to talk about it until he did.
I think the thing that's really interesting there on like DEI or like critical race theory or transgender ideology and all of these things, I think the idea that these were, a divisive debate we were having in the country is entirely a manufacturing by academia and the media itself. I mean, I think Trump is uniting all Americans on these issues. I think we were united all along.
Yes.
I think the only people
but afraid to talk.
Right.
The
only people who are ginning it up were the media, who are like, well, on this side and on this side, and we're gonna, and it's like, no, like, I think we actually talk enough about the racial trauma in America in our history books and in school and stuff. We don't have to be, having critical race theory, academic philosophy for legal scholars applied to kindergartners across this country.
Right. No, I mean, it's well said.
The folks are not getting it. I mean, CNN and Politico admits this, right? Like, he's a great leader. He's a great president. We're going to have to deal with that. CNN, reportedly, the boss there, who's a former New York Times guy, reportedly said to the staffers at some all-hands-on-deck meeting, please try not to prejudge Trump. Like, let's just not do knee-jerk trashing of Donald Trump. He would like his job to continue, which requires viewers, which is why he said that. Then Tom Bevan of Real Clear Politics tweets out the following with the headline, CNN has not learned a thing. This is their homepage. I'll just read you a couple of the headlines. Trump sends shockwaves through the government and around the world. In a flurry of activity happening almost too swiftly to follow, Trump is giving critics every reason to think their worst fears will be realized. Okay, then there's fact check. Trump litters Oval Office interview with false claims. The gloves are off. Trump appears poised to cash in from his presidency in new ways. Okay, let's see. Going over here, moving over. Hegseth's ex-wife gives new statement to FBI amid scrutiny over his nomination. Musk bashes Trump's AI project, undermining a $500 billion investment. Kara Swisher has a theory on why Musk seemed to undermine Trump. No, Trump did not become an overnight crypto billionaire. The latest on the Trump presidency, and then whatever. So I don't feel like CNN has gotten the message. I'm going to take a quick pause and we'll come back and get you guys to react to that because there's more news out of CNN as Jim Acosta, sad single tear. Jim Acosta has lost his spot in the lineup and now, according to reports, may be quitting. More of the Ruthless right after this. I've got some good news for you, and it's called Firecracker Farm Hot Salt. This small family business is making waves, and if you have not yet tried it, it is time to change that. This was the gift to give and receive this past Christmas. It's delicious, and it elevates everything it touches. Eggs, avocado toast, grilled chicken, and more. It's got a kick, but it's not overwhelming. The flavor enhances food without overpowering it. The best part, it comes in sleek stainless steel grinders that are easy to take with you anywhere, unlike messy hot sauce that runs out quickly. Firecracker Farm Hot Salt lasts and lasts, providing hundreds of servings from just one grinder, way more bang for the buck. There are plenty of blends to choose from, and refills are available. So for those who find it a bit too spicy, keep this in mind. If you mix it with some regular sea salt, you will tame the heat perfectly. Do yourself a favor and head on over to firecracker.farm. And here's the kicker. Use code MK at checkout for 10% off your order. Don't wait. This offer's only for a limited time. Firecracker.farm and use code MK for 10% off. So guys, Jim Acosta reportedly losing his key spot in the CNN lineup. I actually have no idea where his spot is, to be perfectly honest. But they are trying to move him to midnight, which they reportedly sold to him by saying it's prime time on the West Coast. And now there are reports that he's getting ready to quit because he is too big to take this kind of demotion. And the reason he is too big is because of moments like this, where he showed true grit and integrity at CNN when Republican lawmakers from Tennessee had the nerve to come on his show, and exchanges like this that happened last night took place.
Do you defend what Donald Trump did, releasing these people from prison, pardoning them, commuting their sentences? Yes or no? Congressman, I asked you a yes or no question.
If they were truly violent, no. But do I know that they were? I don't know that.
What happened to Back the Blue?
Jim, why don't you just give an editorial and not let me come on?
What happens if one of the Oath Keepers of the Proud Boys goes out there and hurts somebody
I would say if they're Trump-appointed judges, they will go to jail. But if they're Joe Biden-appointed judges or Soros-backed DAs, they'll probably walk. We saw during the Black Lives Matters marches. We saw in the riots all across the country. Those people walked. Nobody went to jail for that. Millions upon millions of dollars of property was damaged. You all didn't raise a finger, didn't say one word about it.
Congressman,
you
that's
showed
just
it
not
and said,
true.
"Oh, it's
that was covered on CNN. What you're saying, this is not Fox, Congressman. You can't just spin a tail and pull the wool over people's eyes.
Yeah.
This is CNN. This is the news. We're asking you to come on and tell the truth.
And that's why more people are watching the Cartoon Network SpongeBob reruns right now, Jim. You just can't stand the fact that he won and that America spoke.
Oh my God.
How great is he? Okay, so Congressman Burchett of Tennessee. This is CNN. This is the news. You can't just pull the wool over people's eyes, sir.
Yeah. Thanks, Anchorman. We've heard the Democrat talking points before. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, they definitely covered those riots. Remember the Chiron, mostly peaceful?
Yeah.
Police was on fire behind the guy. Yeah,
this is, of course, on the heels of the Clarissa Ward report, where they used some guy who was apparently connected with Bashar al-Assad and pretended that he was in some prison. That's how it looks, for months. And he came out, clean fingernails, clean clothing, and did this whole only to have it revealed that he was connected with the very people he claimed were imprisoning him, and then wouldn't respond to CNN's calls when it came out that he had given a false name. And we have no idea what CNN sold us. They haven't done a mea culpa, but this is CNN. This is the truth. You can't just pull the wool over somebody's eyes here, sir.
God. It just, I don't think I'll be truly happy until Acosta is like selling cubic zirconiums on QVC.
No. I want him on CNN. I want him to have to go through that humiliation every single night, because I think complaining about your time slot on CNN is like
so good.
Complaining about which circle of hell you got sent to.
I mean, he shouldn't be completely glum. He's got a shot of being number one in the demo in Hawaii.
Look, do you see what this is? Some woman gave this to him and he kept it, and he talked about it on the air the other day. I march for Jim Acosta and the free press. He kept it and he showed it. This is from the Women's March, I think, in 2017. Look at him. He showed it on the air so that we could all celebrate him.
I'll tell you what, Megyn, I'd like to know the chain of custody on that, because I believe that he made that at his house.
It's true, but even if he didn't, maybe it's a good rule of thumb for journos when somebody's wearing a pea hat and it's got your name that they're celebrating. That's probably not fair. That's
good point.
Probably not where you need to
I
be.
have more to do on the press when we get to what they're doing to Pete Hegseth in a minute, but I want to start more with what Trump is doing today, because it's just such good stuff, and we got to get to it. So the executive orders and the crackdown on the border is really where we're going to start. I'm just going to read you a couple, all right? First, the Laken Riley Act passed. It passed the House, and then it went to the Senate. They made some modifications and went back to the House last night, and it passed. And it passed with a lot of Democratic support. Of course, there were some 46 or something Democratic lawmakers who wouldn't sign it, so the Democrats are still crazy. There's some portion that's still crazy. But they passed the Laken Riley Act, which really says, you must detain an illegal who commits shoplifting or something you consider a lesser crime, never mind the more serious crimes. You may not just return them out into society. It requires ICE to arrest illegals who commit an offense of theft, burglary, larceny, shoplifting, or, of course, something more serious, and mandates that these aliens are detained until they're removed from the United States so they cannot reoffend. Then on top of that, because keep in mind what happened with Laken Riley was this criminal in New York City committed a couple of crimes here, including, I think, shoplifting was one of them, and then got released by New York City, which is a sanctuary city in a sanctuary state. And then he went down to Georgia and killed Laken Riley. And if we had just done our job in New York State, well, I'm in Connecticut now, but I'm from New York, this guy would have been behind bars or deported, as he should be now under Trump. So they're trying to crack down on this. And then there's a second piece of the Laken Riley Act that reads as follows. It enables state attorneys general to file lawsuits against the Homeland Security Secretary if the government fails to enforce immigration laws. This is for the next administration. This is Trump saying, I won't be president forever, and I am empowering Greg Abbott and Ron DeSantis and all border state governors to sue the derelict federal government if the next guy refuses to enforce the laws.
Oh, thank God.
And that's exactly what we were talking about, is he's had folks around him like Stephen Miller, who had 4 years to get ready for this moment, who saw the kind of nonsense that the bureaucracy does to keep Americans unsafe. And so now they're hitting the ground running, ready for stuff like this. Also, it's important to note, this is a very American tradition, putting in checks and balances to ensure that America is a safe country of laws. It's a wonderful day for all Americans.
Yeah. Yeah, and hats off to like Katie Britt and others who were the champion of that bill for the last couple of months. I can't believe there was opposition to it. I mean, it just shows you how crazy these people are.
And you got overwhelming Democrat support for this policy of deporting, never mind of punishing the criminals who are here and making sure they don't hurt more Americans, but of deporting all illegals, all of them. But before I get to Harry Enton over on CNN talking about that, let me show you AOC's reaction to the Laken Riley Act.
If a person is so much as accused of a crime, if someone wants to point a finger and accuse someone of shoplifting, they will be rounded up and put into a private detention camp and sent out for deportation without a day in court, without a moment to assert their right and without a moment to assert the privilege of innocent until proven guilty. That is what is inside this bill, a fundamental suspension of a core American value.
Okay. She's very worried about the due process rights of illegals accused of murder.
That's the thing is, so the thing is, the Bill of Rights applies to citizens. I think you learned that, what, third grade? Is that third grade this is covered?
This is underpants gnome logic. You know what I mean? Imagine sitting there and being like, well, if you're even accused, you may not have even done something wrong. Except for the fact that you're illegally here in the first place.
Right,
That's the crime, right? I don't care if you shoplifted. Sure. Now we know who you are. Get the hell out of here. Right. That was the whole point of everything. The crime, the underlying crime is that you're here illegally.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, Smug, the Constitution does apply to people who are in the country, whether they're legal or they're illegal. But the point is what Josh just says, which is if you're here and you get arrested, and I don't care what you get arrested for, we find out you're an illegal, you're out. I don't really give a shit. It's not about your due process laws on the crime you've been arrested for. It's about your underlying crime of sneaking into the country unlawfully. Get out. That's what we're worried about. It's not like whether you're going to get all your Bill of Rights once you actually get to trial. It's you're illegal and you got caught, and right now we're bending over backwards to accommodate you so that you don't have to leave, so that you can let your legal rights play out here. Get out. We already established you're an illegal. Go. You're Venezuela's problem now. But here's, okay, there's more. There's more.
And not for nothing, but like as far as due process goes, you know, everyone who's come to this country over the past 4 years with some BS asylum claim has a court date in like 7 years. In like 7 years.
They don't. And we never find them. If they don't show up, we don't look. All right, here's another one. On top of that, which is an actual law, those are the ones we like the best, right? They can't be undone by executive order by the next president. DOJ released a memo directing federal prosecutors. Now I'm getting into the more executive actions. DOJ released a memo directing federal prosecutors to investigate and potentially prosecute state and local officials who do not cooperate with immigration orders. So once again, this is a crackdown on sanctuary cities, that you could get prosecuted if you are a state or local official who's not complying with an ICE detainer. You know, there's an ICE detainer on some bad hombre who gets arrested for shoplifting, let's say in New York City, and he's sitting behind a bar, and there's a detainer, which means New York officials are supposed to call ICE and say, hey, we've got this guy you're looking for, and they don't. Instead, they defy that, and they let the guy free, and he goes down to Georgia and murders a 22-year-old nursing student. So this is saying, you local officials who do that, you're going to get your asses prosecuted. It's not just about the act, which mandates it with Laken Riley. We're going to come after you criminally.
Yep. And this is very necessary because there's a lot of already very troubling things that are happening. The other day it was reported that the Denver public school system, taxpayer funded, is sending out emails advising illegal aliens and their families how to avoid ICE. That's taxpayer funding that's going towards breaking the law. So things like this are incredibly necessary when you see across this country that institutions that we ourselves are paying for as taxpayers are trying to help individuals break the law, which can lead to things like innocent people getting murdered. So it's wonderful seeing how focused the Trump administration is on making sure that is dealt with.
Bad news for old Newscomb.
Yeah.
All right, let me give you a couple more on the border. The Pentagon announced it will begin deploying as many as 1,500 active duty troops to help secure the southern border in the coming days. They will join the roughly 2,500 U.S. National Guard and Reserve forces already there. That makes 4,000 troops along the southern border. Reports out today it could go as high as 10,000 to make sure that now they're not sending the military down there in a law enforcement capacity. You're not allowed to use the military like that. They're not going to be shooting illegals. They're just standing there, and they're happy to put the illegals in the truck and drive them back across the border. That they can do. They can't arrest them. That's the job of CPB. But this is an amazing show of force, which is having incredible effects already. I'll give you the numbers in one sec. 10,000 flights were canceled for so-called refugees who were slated to travel to the United States. Up here in the Northeast, we've been getting a ton of these flights in Westchester in the middle of the night. Canceled. Go back home. Biden's been bringing them in by the plane load to various communities throughout the United States. Trump canceled all the flights, at least 10,000 so far. Sorry, you're somebody else's problem. Texas reinstalled massive floating buoy barrier along the Rio Grande. Remember, there was that huge, barrier down there, and Biden went down there and sued him to take it down because they said it was dangerous for the illegals who were trying to swim across the Rio Grande. He lost in court. Ultimately, the Fifth Circuit ruled for Greg Abbott, but they hadn't yet reinstalled it. And now it's going to be fully reinstalled, and Abbott plans to extend the barrier further. In Florida, there is new Coast Guard protection. In response to Trump's executive orders, the Coast Guard is announcing it will immediately surge boats, cutters, aircraft, specialized forces to the southern border around Florida to prevent mass illegal migration from Haiti and Cuba. This is just so beautiful. Number 6, the Department of Homeland Security, in a memo, permits ICE to raid so-called sensitive areas. Trump's DHS issued this memo, immediately rescinding Biden's 2021 through Mayorkas policy, which limited ICE from enforcing our immigration laws if they found an illegal near a, quote, sensitive area like a school, a church, or a healthcare facility. And Team Trump is saying, go for it. Go ahead and do it. Those are the most important areas to secure from dangerous illegals. Why would we give them a free pass so they intentionally go live near a school or a church or one of these healthcare facilities? So that's been revoked. And this is like just a little bit of color, because there's so much here. I'm drinking from the fire hose. Just a look into the effect this is having as ICE goes to arrest a Haitian criminal illegal migrant, and Fox's Bill Malugin was there. And this guy found his English for a second. Take a listen.
I'm not going back to Haiti.
One of those threats is this illegal alien from Haiti. ICE says he's a gang member with 17 criminal convictions in recent years.
So, you feel me? Yo, Biden forever, bro. Thank Obama for everything that he did for me, bro.
There it is.
Oh, there we are.
What more is there to say?
Oh, yeah. No, it turns out maybe they're not sending their best.
And it's right there. Everyone understood. We've been saying for a while when there was a Democrat primary happening in 2020, and they asked during a debate, will you provide, free health care, housing for illegal immigrants? Raise your hand if you did. If you do, and every single one of those people did. The message was heard loud and clear around the world. Get across the border, break the law. It's free stuff all the way. Those days have come to an end. So many Democrats are saying, no, that's not the message. Look, we had Kamala say, do not come. That means that we were serious about this. The second important thing to point out is you hear all these nonsense rules that were put in place by Mayorkas of, there's these sensitive areas. You can't enforce the law here. You have to take down these barriers and let them come in. This was willful. This invasion was willful. This was part of the plan that they had in place. There needs to be lawsuits against Mayorkas. He didn't get a pardon. He didn't get a pardon. This didn't just happen on his watch. He enabled and encouraged this to happen. There needs to be accountability.
Yeah, and there won't be. There won't be. And by the way, it's sad because Trump's going to do his level best to get as many of these folks out as he can. And I know the administration is very happy, and I'm thrilled to see that some 300 to 500 now illegals have already been captured by Homan. But we have maybe 20 million. I mean, it's just it's not doable. They're going to remain here. If we can get out 1 million or 2, it will be miraculous. But we are not going to get the vast majority of those illegals who Biden-Harris allowed to enter this country out.
Yeah. Well, I keep coming back. I mean, remember at the beginning of the Biden administration when Biden appointed the intellectual heft of Kamala Harris to identify the root causes of illegal immigration, and you never got any answer. She didn't even go to the border for 3 years. And then you think about it, and it's like what you said about the flow and all of it. This gets easier once people know you can't come and you don't get stuff. I'll tell you what, if you're going to look for a root cause, it's when you put a green light at the border and you tell people you're going to fly them up to the Northeast and resettle them. That's it. You're giving a green light to the cartels, by the way, to traffic humans all the way up from Central America in order to do it. And they make a ton of money doing it with drugs, with human trafficking, all kinds of different things. By putting these things in place, remain in Mexico, solidifying the border, all this other stuff that he's doing, I think we're going to find out that people are like, well, maybe we can't go there anymore.
And also, beyond that, I know for a long time it's been a punchline, and rightfully so, the whole self-deportation idea. Yeah. But when you take away things like birthright citizenship, there's no longer a reason to stay here. You got to go.
Right.
There's nothing left. If you show up here hoping to just have a child and that's a U.S. citizen, and then they can get you a green card and you can play that game that's been going for way too long, you take that away, and all of a sudden there is no point here because eventually an ICE agent can be looking for you.
Yeah.
Listen to this, guys. Border Patrol now, these are the numbers. I think this is from Fox's Ali Bradley reporting this. Okay. The data was obtained through a DHS source. Okay. On January 17th through 19th, right before Trump was inaugurated, the encounters between migrants and Border Patrol were at 4,000. Then OFO, which is a different, that's basically the people running the CPB1 app appointments. It was about 5,000. So about 9,000 encounters with, attempted migrants entering the country a day from 117 to 119. Trump gets sworn in on 120 and 121. So this past Monday and Tuesday. It fell to 1,900, call it 2,000, and 930, call it 1,000. So that's down to 3,000, right? So we go from basically 9,000 to 3,000 overnight. And then 122, as of approximately 8 p.m., which was Wednesday, it's down to 440 with Border Patrol and 45 with the OFO, down to 500. We went from 9,000 encounters with migrants at the border on 117 through 119 to 500 yesterday.
I mean, it's as good a proof as you can get that the deterrence works. Another thing that they did, Megyn, is they shut off that CBP1 app that CBS was so happy about during the J.D. Vance debate. That stuff works, and it actually is having a material impact right away.
A federal government app to tell you how you can get here illegally.
So
here are your rights.
Right there, the data shows a drop of 95%. Right there. The initial reaction from the media, I remember on Monday, you had 50 journos taking video of, oh, this is a migrant who's trying to get in and they're crying now. Oh, isn't that horrible? They're crying. Every one of those journalists got played because Monday was also Martin Luther King Day. And the DHS is closed. There are no appointments that can be made on Martin Luther King Day. But if you're a migrant crying, your word is golden. The Constitution of the United States,
that's so
how
funny.
Immigration works, oh, that's necessary. We have someone crying and telling journos a lie.
Megyn, you liked it that Smug just did the math on all that?
He did that quickly.
Drop
that was well done. I'm glad somebody else did it.
And it's just like, you're going to give you the number.
We have more. I want to show you what Trump said about this on Hannity last night, and then I'll get to that Harry Enton report showing what the American people want. In fact, I'll just play that now. Play SOT 4, and then we'll go to break.
That's what I really think you see. You see real uniformity. Deporting all immigrants who are here illegally, 55% of the New York Times. Marquette, 64%. CBS News, 57%. ABC News with a slightly different question, 56%. So what you're seeing essentially here is a very clear indication that a majority of Americans do, in fact, want to deport all immigrants who are here illegally. There's no arguing with these different numbers because they're all essentially the same across 4 different pollsters.
That's the truth. And the media is going to have to accept that fact because it's the people's will. And that will is going to be done. You guys from Ruthless, stay with us. They'll be right back, and so will I. Are you overwhelmed with back taxes or unfiled returns? Well, get ready, because since COVID relief ended, the IRS hired 20,000 new enforcement agents proposing millions of pay-up notices for 2025. If you're worried about IRS collection tactics, you don't have to face them alone. Tax Network USA can help. Tax Network USA is the nation's premier tax relief firm, and they've negotiated over $1 billion in tax relief for their clients. Their services include penalty forgiveness and hardship programs. Whether you owe $10,000 or $10 million, their experts are ready to assist you. Even if you're behind on your taxes, Tax Network USA can guide you through the process. Contact them for personalized support. Handling IRS matters without professional help is risky. Protect your financial security with guidance from Tax Network USA. To schedule a complimentary consultation, call 1-800-958-1000 or visit tnusa.com/Megyn. Don't let the IRS's aggressive tactics control your life. Empower yourself with Tax Network USA's support and take charge of your financial future. Visit tnusa.com/Megyn today. Just to correct my numbers on the Laken Riley Act, it was 33 Democratic senators who voted no, 156 House members, Democrats, voted no. It was 46 Dems who voted yes. So that's where I got the 40s number from. Anyway, you got 46 Democrats who were sensible and are listening to their constituents, and you had 156 House Dems saying they're not on board with the Laken Riley Act, which doesn't really help them with the populace, as you heard in that Harry Enton report. All the polls, all of them, across all networks, across all pollsters are showing in the mid-50s to 60 range, with Democrats who are in favor of throwing all illegals out, all, not just the criminals.
Yeah. I can't even imagine the justification for it. I mean, you just read what the thing does.
I mean, the good news is congratulations to CLF and the NRCC. Your ad is ready to go for the midterm for 156 House.
Seriously, you could get pretty deep blue in some of those districts with that kind of take. I just don't understand.
You've got AOC, like with the sob story, like, no, they're going to deprive them of their due process rights, these poor illegals who are accused of committing crime. And just look like 180 on the other side. So she's over here, 180 on the other side. Here's Trump talking to Hannity last night in SOT 6.
Why would anybody that even likes, you don't have to love our country, you have to like it. Why would anybody that likes our country, the Democrats, allow that to happen? And even now, I watch them on television, they're trying to justify it. You can't justify it. The only reason it can be is 2 reasons. You're stupid, and I don't think they're stupid. I think anybody that cheats that much and that well is not stupid. You're either stupid or you hate the country. I won't get into it, but you can look at them and you can say, could be trouble. Could be trouble. There are people coming in.
There are people with gang tattoos on.
There are people coming in with tattoos all over their face. Their entire face is covered with tattoos.
That identifies
Typically, you know he's not going to be the head of the local bank.
Post Malone, very concerned.
Like you said, it's just sense. It's back to the Politico argument. He has a way of communicating with regular people that they all get on an instinctive level. There's no combating that. No AOC high-soaring rhetoric is able to combat that.
Nope. Yeah. Well, and not only is he plain spoken about it, but I think he gains power by the outrage. So after that clip aired, there was a whole bunch, take to X, the journos and everybody saying he can tell by somebody's a criminal by looking at them. He's racist, this, that, and the other thing. But like that only builds power with Trump. And I think increasingly what we saw through his political prosecutions and all of these things, every time somebody just sort of lines up against Trump and tries to explain how he's a racist, a degenerate, a criminal, all these things, more and more of America is like, no, I heard what he said.
It's like the Voltaire quote where he said, I ask God for but one wish, that my enemies be absurd, and he granted it. And Trump has been given that in spades. Totally. The more that they try to sound crazy and say, just because someone's covered in gang tattoos and breaks the law entering the country doesn't mean they're a criminal. Actually, that's exactly what it means. And when you're wearing a flag that says, I'm a member of a gang, you're probably a member of a gang.
Exactly. And when that tattoo is on your face, times 10.
Yeah.
It's very aggressive.
No secret there.
Yeah, that was actually another line in the Politico article that the FDR said, I'd ask one thing, but to be judged by the enemies that I have made. Judge me by my enemies. And I think Trump feels the same. He's thrilled to have AOC out there saying things like that about him. Okay, so moving on. There's a lot of other stuff we got to cover, including what they're doing to Pete Hegseth. So Pete Hegseth is, I think, still on his way to being confirmed. We've been watching McConnell, Murkowski, Collins, and Ernst, 4 Republican senators who should vote for him, but have reportedly been on the fence. Those first 3 have not said how they're going to vote. Ernst has said she will vote to support Pete, and she did vote him out of committee. So we're still question marking those 3, but we don't really care because if that's the only 3 he loses, then it's a tie in the Senate, which J.D. Vance would cast the deciding vote on, and Pete would get in. But as the Senate slow rolls the final vote, the Democrats are saying, we need more information, we need more time, blah, 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 on Pete. You get an 11th hour submission now from, I want to make sure I have it right. Pete has a brother. He has a couple brothers. But this is the lesser known brother. And the brother's, not the brother's wife, but the brother's ex-wife. Who is a far left Democrat. I've talked to people who know her, who never liked Pete, comes forward to say he was some sort of an abuser of Pete's second wife, who's not her sister. They both married into the family. So this woman was married to the one brother of Pete, and Samantha Hegseth was Pete's second wife. And this woman says he's an abuser. And I know that because my some 8 years married to the brother mostly overlaps Pete's marriage to Samantha. And it was to the point where Samantha had a code word where she would text it to me if she thought she was in trouble, like inside the house. And in fact, she did text me the code word one time. And so Pete, and that signifies that she was afraid of Pete. Well, okay, let's hear the rest of the story. What happened next? Did you call the police? Did the police visit Pete's house? Did they arrest Pete? Was there a domestic violence complaint officially made? And most importantly, what does Samantha Hegseth say? Because we don't know you, weird ex-sister-in-law who's a far-left progressive Democrat trying to stop Pete. But the ex-wife, Samantha, certainly does know Pete. So what does she say? She denies it. She denied it to the FBI. Now, she said he never physically abused me, which left me as a lawyer saying, is she leaving the door open to emotional abuse? Now, that comes with all sorts of question marks because, a couple divorcing, they're going to fight. They're going to have a lot of arguments. He cheated on her. I'm sure they had some very volatile arguments when that was revealed. He impregnated Jen, who became his third wife, and, who he wound up with. So I'm sure there were some very brutal rhetorical fights. But that's not necessarily abuse. And so I don't know what the truth is there. So then I went digging further and saw the divorce papers and the order issued by the judge in the divorce proceeding, which makes really clear what actually happened there. And that judge said nobody is alleging abuse, and there's been absolutely nothing that tells me that there was abuse of any kind. He says there's no probable cause whatsoever to conclude that there was abuse in this marriage one way or the other. I'm trying to find the exact language. I can't find it in front of me right now. So what do we get? We get the media running with the headlines, Pete's accused of abuse. Pete's an abuser. He's accused of abuse. And in some publications, they don't even print that the actual ex-wife says that's not true.
It's just
and
wrong.
in places like the New York Times, they stick that in the 18th paragraph of their story. I mean, because they want to do the damage to him without actually getting into it. Okay, here, hold on. Without actually telling the truth. Here's the New York Times. The main article on Tuesday, the headline was, Hegseth ex-sister-in-law tells senators he was abusive to second wife. The subheadline, a woman once married to the brother of Pete Hegseth, the defense secretary nominee, submitted a sworn statement to the Senate in a late-hour complication to his confirmation. His lawyer denied her account. His lawyer? His lawyer denied it? How about mentioning that the alleged abuse victim denied it in your subheadline, New York Times? And then you've got the CBS Evening News in a report from Nicole Killian, who's got exactly the right last name because that's what she's been trying to do to Pete Hegseth, made no mention of Samantha Hegseth's disavowals of the allegations in this ex-sister-in-law's affidavit. So CBS News didn't even want to tell its audience that the ex-wife, the alleged abuse victim, has denied it on the record. And by the way, back to what the Minnesota family court judge said in the divorce proceeding. He said neither Pete nor Samantha Hegseth claimed to be a victim of domestic abuse. He said he was making no determination whatsoever that there was probable cause to believe that one parent has been physically abused or threatened with physical abuse by the other parent. Now, I think the alleged hiding in the closet, using the safe word, texting the sister-in-law that you feel unsafe would qualify as feeling that you'd been threatened with physical abuse. But this judge found that did not happen. And when asked recently by the FBI whether she was abused, Samantha Hegseth said no physical abuse. So this is where we are, guys. I mean, you tell me whether this is, the Hail Mary pass by Jack Reed and others.
Megyn, I will tell you my first reaction to this is that the legacy media learned absolutely nothing about what they saw over the last year that's happened to their industry. People are running away from them in droves because they're tired of being misled by basic articles. They open up a newspaper because they want information, not because they want somebody's editorial opinion fashioned as a news story.
Well, it's immoral. It's intentionally deceitful. They know the facts. It's in the story. So they know the material facts about the alleged victim of the abuse denying the claim that's made by, brother's ex-wife. I mean, it's absurd on its face. It's Kavanaugh all
Seems
over
important.
again.
That's right. And I think Holmes is exactly right. This is the playbook that the left and especially Senate Democrats go to again and again and again. They did to Clarence Thomas. They did to Kavanaugh. They had some sketchy lawyer show up and say, I think that there was a gang rape that this guy was taking part in. And the media ran with it like it was gospel. And we find out that lawyer goes to jail because they're crooked.
I mean, look, I'm hesitant to give Democrats advice on this because what they're doing and what the media does is the best whip operation a Republican leader could ever have, right? I mean, there are more. Look, Pete's going to get confirmed. I don't know if there's going to be, those last three senators that vote for him or vote against him, but I think he's got 50 in the bank. He's going to get confirmed. Had Democrats run a real confirmation hearing, keeping this nonsense out of the public discussion about the job of Secretary of Defense, about his view of our status of forces agreements, about, what are we going to do with Ukraine and American military and Taiwan and American. You could get into a scenario where Pete would have a bipartisan concern if you asked the right questions and he was unable to answer it. This is not it. I mean, if those three didn't vote for him, I can promise you it's not because of a story like that. By going back to that well time and time again, all they've done is make Republicans react to everything that comes out like this in a way they just circle the wagons.
Yep.
No more questions. I don't need to hear any more. I know what you're trying to do to him. You did it to Brett Kavanaugh.
Right.
Exactly right. So they're obsessed. And these reporters, like I mentioned, this woman, Nicole Killian at CBS, who has been so unfair to him from the get-go with the alleged rape allegation, which now just gets short-formed by all of these media outlets to accused by rape and signed a settlement. Accused of rape, denied. They mentioned he denied it. They don't talk about any of the holes in this woman's case. The fact that the police chose not to pursue it after doing a full investigation. The fact that she claims she was given a date rape drug, but was seen on camera and by 3 independent witnesses and her husband on the back end within a period of 2.5 hours, totally fine, sober, and not drugged. That's not how the date rape drug works, people. None of that gets mentioned. It's just, think about it. As a man, you get accused by this woman in what appears to be an obvious lie, an obvious made-up claim of rape. And then every publication, as you get the nomination of your lifetime, just short forms it to accused of rape and paid a settlement. Accused of rape. He was accused of rape. It's so unfair. So anyway, this Nicole Killian has been doing this to him from the beginning. I'll just give you an example of this woman's reporting, who decided to omit the fact that Samantha Hegseth has denied it from her CBS News report. Here's an example of her on the rape allegation.
I don't know the young lady.
Oklahoma Senator Markwayne Mullin said Hegseth addressed the allegation in their meeting.
I don't think there's any way in the world you're going to say that this was a sexual assault.
What makes you so confident about that?
Have you read the report?
I actually have. I've got it right here.
I read the report too. It's pretty clear that of what took place. It was pretty clear that it was. She definitely wasn't drugged to a room. It was 2 people flirting with each other.
Well, it also said she couldn't get out of the room.
Well, that's one person's opinion.
Look how smug she is.
Unbelievable.
I'm sorry, smug.
I have the right here.
No, like she's somehow got greater expertise than a prosecutor, detective, in a sheriff's office. They decided that this was in fact a false claim. They weren't going to pursue charges. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's immoral.
It is immoral.
It is immoral, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. I just don't. If they haven't learned the lesson in November of doing all of this, like, what would lead them to believe that they're not going to just keep on doing it?
Here's the thing. I don't think they will ever change. I really don't. I mean, I worked as a press secretary for my entire career. I do not think they will ever change because the culture of newsrooms in New York is so far left. It's unfixable. The only thing that will change and is changing right now is the movement of audiences away from legacy media and towards media like your show, Megyn. People want to know that they can get information, it's reliable, and that you actually ask tough questions and you actually get the facts, and you're not satisfied until you get that. And that's all an audience wants, is reality.
There's a little bit more color on this. The NBC News reporter who was behind this original report on the sister-in-law is named Julie Sirkin. And there are 2 others, Sarah Fitzpatrick and Courtney Cube. And this Sirkin once called journalism frightening because of Trump. The greatest challenge was realizing that I was entering the business at a frightening time. In almost every single speech I logged from Donald Trump's presidential campaign, there was a jab at the free press, which makes it frightening for her to join the media. Then she went on to say how challenging it was for her to balance emotional involvement and objective journalism. Well, I'm not sure she's doing such a great job of that over at NBC News, where she files this report on Pete in what's obviously an attempted political hit. And so impressed was NBC Nightly News with her reporting that they did not even include it in their nightly news broadcast. CBS runs with it, but omits the sister-in-law's denial. NBC looks at that turd of a report and said, we've got bigger things to cover.
I love that they engage in just full-on character assassination at the same time they act like they're dismounting the boats at D-Day.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, what we go through to cover this kind of. By the way, that guy's a rapist.
Also,
It's
how much
so
more
true.
obvious can you get? You're in the wrong line of work if you say, I have a challenge being objective.
Okay.
You just said you need a new job.
Yeah.
Get out of there.
Maybe a columnist.
Yeah, no problem. So many other things you can do. Like I always say to people who don't like the long hours or the weird hours of news, there's KeyBank. It's right down the road. Nobody bothers you. You work 9 to 4. It's nice and easy. I'm sure it's got its own set of challenges, but overall, it's far easier than working at news. You don't have to do this. That's it. Fine. Go. Do something else. It's no problem. All right. So the important thing is we think that Pete is going to be confirmed. I have a prediction. It is now Thursday. They're saying possibly Friday night or the wee hours of Saturday morning. That because Thune is basically saying, we're not leaving. Get your cots. We're going to have a vote on Pete and these others. He's the Senate Majority Leader now. And I have a prediction that Jack Reed / Tim Kaine, et cetera, they're not done. They're going to try to pull yet another rabbit out of their hat on Pete because they're really desperate to stop him. I think they smell blood in the water on that one, and they really just want to get one. And I think he's their favorite to get right now. But good luck, because you got to. They're going to try.
They're going to try, Megyn. But we said it during the hearings. Once they presented the way that they did, they were so underprepared to know what it was that would divide Republicans and imperil this nomination. I mean, Johnny and I used to do this for a living. We would put together strategies and plans to try to figure out how to kill Obama nominees that we thought were just wholly unfit to hold cabinet positions. And to do that, you have to do some examination of your targets and what would drive a Republican away from doing that. What they did in terms of executing a strategy was unify Republicans. And the only thing was unify Republican. And so, they want to take out Pete. Sure, they want to take out Pete. They're not going to get him. And the reason they're not going to get him is because of the strategy that they have executed upon. They only have themselves to blame.
They're not doing any better with the OMB nominee, you guys. This may be my favorite story of the day. I don't know if you saw this, but, OMB stands for Office of Management and Budget. And Trump's nominee, a guy named Russell Vogt, Vought, he goes over there to submit himself to questioning. And Democratic Senator from the state of Washington, Patty Murray, gets this number crunching, accountant type guy who's going to be managing the budget. That's a big responsibility. She's got him in her crosshairs. And where does she go with this extraordinary opportunity to cross-examine him? She goes here.
You were a lead author of the Anti-Abortion Project 2025. That when it comes to abortion, you, quote, want to get to abolition. You don't believe in exceptions for rape, for incest, or life of the mother. Is that your position?
Senator, my views are not important. I'm here on behalf of the president as his nominee to restore fiscal accountability.
I'm asking you a question under oath, sir, because you want to be director of an office that will advise the president, and we have a right to know your views. Will you answer the question?
I will, Senator, because it's consistent with the views that the president ran on repeatedly. He made his views very clear on abortion.
Even in the case of rape, incest, life of the mother.
That is his view, and I will strictly abide by the president's view.
There it is. Oh my God. Well, she's on to it.
Wrong target?
She figured it out.
She finally got it. And, sadly, she's going to have to register her menstrual cycles here soon with the Office of Management and Budget.
That's right. The Project 2025. It's amazing to me. So he's got views that are controversial on abortion. He's going to be the number cruncher. He's the guy with a little green visor who's going to be doing addition and subtraction. He is not going to be running federal abortion policy, which is not really a thing.
But I think it's important to remember, Megyn, that these Democrats are entirely captured by these ideological nonprofits and institutions that run the Democratic Party and finance it. And that's one of the reasons, back to the Pete Hegseth thing, that they chose character assassination rather than actual foreign policy, where maybe they could find some fissures in the Republican Party. They're not actually interested in success here. They're interested in placating the billion-dollar donors that run their party who care about abortion.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, clearly, it has to be. And their little echo chamber, right? I mean, you listen to MSNBC, and this is all they're talking about, and all of their C4s and make work fail sons and whatnot that are pushing papers their way saying character assassination is the only way to go.
Right.
And Project 2025, alive and well.
Wait, stand by on that. Because Senator Whitehouse, he weighed in on this too in cross-examining Vogt. Watch.
Do you have knowledge of where the executive orders were drafted?
I don't have a comprehensive knowledge of where the executive orders
Do you
were
have any
drafted.
knowledge of where the executive orders were drafted? Do you know, for instance, if some of them came out of language from the Center for Renewing America, or some of them came out of Project 2025, or some of them came out of the Heritage Institute, or some of them came out of the American Petroleum Institute? Do you know an answer to those questions?
I can't imagine they came from Project 2025. The president disassociated himself repeatedly from that. But no, I can't give you a comprehensive.
I mean, I'm told by a reliable source, Smug, that you've got breaking news on 2025. What's the story?
So that's the thing, is the funniest joke we ever pulled on the Democrats was convincing them that Project 2025 wasn't real.
That's exactly right.
And Russ's credit, he's perfectly composed at these hearings. I don't know how he maintains the composure to not just come forward and be like, it's over, we won. Yes, we're going to do Project 2025. And here's the thing is, it's good. And he's going to be managing OMB. So one of the things to consider is everyone thinks Project 2025 only has to deal with abortion. When you're managing the budget, there's tremendous economic benefits. I've been told by a reliable source, for example, there's going to be so many jobs created because all the red robes and bonnets are going to be made here in America. So many jobs will be created.
Can you imagine if he went with it like that?
Custom fit.
Yeah.
Excellent. It's amazing, the obsession. Like, they have obviously no points to score against this guy. He already was OMB director under Trump 1. And they just decide to use it as a showcase for one of their favorite ponies. Like, oh, yay, let's talk about abortion. Here's an extremist. Let's make the American population hate him. That's fun. Let's bring up all of our old favorites. Project 2025 and abortion with no exceptions. Good times, right? That's all they have at this point. I want to talk about this. On the subject of people we no longer trust or should trust, Trump is yanking the security clearances of various officials, and it's frankly kind of delicious, including those 51 so-called national security officials or intelligence experts who signed the letter suggesting that the Hunter Biden laptop was Russian disinformation, which was a coordinated effort between those guys and the Biden campaign to save Joe Biden's ass from that laptop. And so Trump has pulled their security clearances, including people like John Brennan, James Clapper, Leon Panetta. And he also pulled the security clearance of John Bolton. And I think also pulled John Bolton's Secret Service protection, which I did not even realize he was getting while he was traveling. Molly Hemingway pointed this out, from media outlet to bash Trump and make sure he wasn't reelected. The Secret Service was following him. Why were they protecting John Bolton instead of Trump adequately at the Pittsburgh rally? That's a question I'd love an answer to. So what do you make of the pulling of the security clearances of these folks? Because CBS's Margaret Brennan, she's very concerned. Here's what she tweeted.
Oh my
President Trump revoked the security clearance of a long list of former intelligence officials. This makes it hard for his own team to seek informed counsel from them.
Yeah.
Informed counsel.
They're going to get informed counsel, all right. I mean, this is so overdue.
Yes.
Yeah. Because a couple of things. It's not just that they signed that letter. That was egregious in and of itself. Should have been enough right away. In fact, if you were being fair in a Democratic administration, you found out something was that much of a lie, you couldn't trust them with America's secrets, right? So you'd have to do it. But of course, they didn't. The bigger problem here is that there is a cottage industry that both CNN and MSNBC and those three networks, which is why Margaret Brennan is upset about this, engage in that they put all of these folks under contract to talk about quote unquote national security issues.
Yep.
Except for the fact that they have security clearances, and so they can give you sort of half truths and knowing nods. And this was the case all through Russiagate. It was like, we've seen information that compels us to take action. And I think that the right thing to do is to go through with a Mueller report and all this and the other, when they hadn't seen shit.
Yep.
And this was all a partisan charade right from the very beginning. But you, the viewer, are watching this, and as a former CIA director, clearly still has his national security clearances. You're looking at, like, of course, he can't tell me the whole thing. They can't give up America's secrets, but he's giving me that knowing nod saying that this guy is guilty of all sorts of treason. So, what choice do I have to believe him? That is really,
and that's
the crime.
That's the critical thing is these people were incredibly corrupt because they used the fact that they had access to that intelligence as a meal ticket. They signed these contributor contracts so that they could say, oh, Clapper, he has a security clearance and he's a paid contributor. And he says this bears the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. So he can just use the fact that he has security clearance to get himself a nice little paycheck.
You're the viewer. You're saying, well, the CIA director said it bears the hallmark. He knows what the hallmarks look like. Nonsense. It turned out to be all bullshit. But if you watch, and if you really watch these people on the air, it is so much more sadistic than that.
Yeah.
Because they take it into each and every little thing that they disagree with. Trump is obviously the target. But even like foreign policy discussions where Trump is immaterial to the conversation, they give you information right up to the point where you're like, all right, well, show us information. And they kind of give you the wink and they're like, we can't talk about all of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they're pushing an agenda. It is deeply, deeply problematic. I'm really glad he did it.
Yeah. This guy, General Michael Hayden, he's one of them. And at least twice, he openly compared Trump to Hitler. Why would Trump allow this guy ongoing access to anything? Anything, never mind our national security secrets. This is obviously a dishonest broker. So good for him. More controversial is news today that he's pulling Secret Service protection for Mike Pompeo. And I wonder your thoughts on that. I mean, I have nothing against Mike Pompeo. I understand he's controversial within some MAGA circles, but I don't want him to get hurt. And I realize he was in an important position and actually, could be exposed. I think he may have money to protect himself. I don't know. I'm not sure whether that factored in or not. But I do think in general, we have too many ex-government officials who have Secret Service protection, given the fact that we have a Secret Service that is obviously undermanned and feeling slightly overwhelmed.
Yeah, I think there's two separate questions. Your last point is right. And I think that all of that requires review. Look, we know Mike Pompeo. The reason that he had, and typically secretaries of state don't, but the reason he had Secret Service protection is that there were very credible, very realistic threats on his life from Iran. And given the role that he played in the first Trump administration with a very aggressive posture towards Iran, those were real. And we don't know anything that's at all classified, but I can tell you that it was a thing. Now, whether it's no longer a thing, I don't know. And I don't know what would cause them to pull it. I honestly don't know that he was ever at a point where he was sort of anti-Trump. So maybe this is a security.
No, I sat two people down from him at that Pittsburgh rally that I spoke at for Trump the night before the election. So he showed up there. He was in the good graces of the president. But I mean, and I would think as the former CIA director under Trump, the former Secretary of State under Trump, maybe he does have some security threats. I mean, you can see that. But I know that like there's a very strong strain within the top MAGA echelons that really pushed against using him again in this administration because they think he's too much of a war hawk. They think he's just a little too neocon-y, which is fine. They got their way, but I don't totally get, other than if they've had a falling out, in which case that would be petty by Trump, or if Trump is basically just trying to rein in the costs of this enormous service that, I mean, John Bolton had, like, how many people have it? How many family members have it? Like, how long will Hunter Biden have it? It's just, this is an American taxpayer expense. And I just wonder, given how undermanned they are, whether we should be realistic about our abilities to pay these fees.
That's the right question. Those are the right questions. And I think, given what we saw over the summer, threats on President Trump, getting shot and all the failures of all of that, it does require an open review of all. And I don't know the answers to those questions, right? I mean, we don't have any idea about what Secret Service details are out there and on whom and how far it goes back. Clearly, former presidents need something. But beyond that, you got to make a justification. What I hope, Megyn, is that the decision on the Pompeo Secret Service was based on an assessment of the security situation and nothing else. Because if it's something else, it's tough.
Let me pause it there because I really want to get to the Oscar nominations and a couple of other things if we have time. I'm going to squeeze in a quick break and we're going to come back more with Ruthless after this. Okay, listen up, football fans. It's playoff time, and it's now or never. Don't miss out on the last few weeks of football action with Prize Picks, the best place to win cash while watching the playoffs and to have a little extra fun. Especially if your team's already out of the hunt. Prize Picks is a way to get involved and have a little rooting interest. Makes it a little spicier. Pick some of your favorite players to score. Enjoy the game on the edge of your seat. If you sign up today, you're going to get $50 instantly when you play with $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Then you can make your prize picks. Doug likes the Eagles, so he possibly could still be in it. He would probably take the players on Philly to score some touchdowns this weekend. Prize Picks adds a little spice to the viewing experience. Download the app today and use code Megyn to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Again, download the Prize Picks app today and use code Megyn. Play $5 and instantly get $50 from this promotion. Before we get to the Oscars, got to spend a minute on the Obamas because there seems to be some momentum picking up in the rumor mill about their marriage. All right, I'm going to bring you what I know. First, on January 15th, in the Substack of Jessica Reed Krause, also known as House and Habit, she's well-connected in some circles and worked for RFKJ for a time, right? Didn't she? She was close to RFKJ. Close to. She posts the following. And she's been right about a lot, this gal. Michelle Obama's absence at Jimmy Carter's funeral certainly raised some eyebrows, but yesterday's announcement that she won't be attending Trump's inauguration confirms something is definitely going on between her and Barack. She said whispers about cracks in their relationship have been circulating in D.C. for over a year now, but this feels like the first public proof of a marriage on the rocks. The question now isn't if, but when. If I had to guess, they will wait until after the inauguration to announce it. Timing, is everything. And yet the story doesn't end there. For months, I've heard Jennifer Aniston's name tied to Barack. At first, it seemed ridiculous, but the rumors have remained steady among New York and LA circles. I should reiterate to the audience that Aniston has denied it, saying, I don't even know him. I've seen Michelle more than I've ever seen him. Then Jessica cites a DM she received the day before. Quote, he's with Jennifer Aniston. My old manager, now a friend, is connected to her inner circle. At a gathering with Jennifer's friends, the affair came up casually. Jennifer herself admitted it. They were sitting with a psychic, which makes it sound surreal, but it's definitely not a secret among her closest friends. Then yesterday, Meghan McCain had a discussion about this on her show, suggesting she is hearing the same. She had on Tara Palmieri, who's a reporter, saying, fast and furious loud, I've been hearing this rumor about the Obamas getting a divorce from reputable people. I'm not talking about TMZ, she says. I'm talking about very serious journalists telling me they are hearing that the Obama divorce rumors are true. And Tara, who's a senior political correspondent for Puck, says, I've certainly heard it for a while too, even before Michelle said she wasn't coming to the inauguration. I do not know whether this is true at all, but if it is true, it truly would be a political earthquake in Democrat circles. Never mind America. I don't remember a presidential divorce in modern history. What do you guys make of it?
Oh, man.
So I started hearing murmurs about this a while ago too, and I guess so. I asked Ashbrook, and he confirmed it. Ashbrook was like, because he hangs out with a lot of Democrats.
Was a psychic there?
We did it with a psychic.
Yeah. And so that's the thing is, how awesome must have that situation been that the psychic was like, I see a president in your past that you're currently dating. And she's like, oh, it's Barack. Yeah, you're right.
And then through the crystal ball, it's like, I'll be there for you. Oh my God, it's Jennifer Aniston.
Jennifer Aniston, it was her circle of friends there allegedly discussing this. I mean, we don't know. But
that's how you know it's true.
Is it so hard to believe?
When a woman tells another woman, yeah, you can tell me, I'll keep a secret. The phone's already out. It's about to hit a group chat. So that is to me, the most conclusive piece of evidence.
Some of you are married. Did you see the post he put out to celebrate her birthday?
Yeah.
Was it her birthday or their anniversary?
He did.
He chose the least attractive photo of her that's ever been released. I mean, this is just wrong. Michelle Obama can look very nice in a photograph. This ain't it. She's got the kerchief on her head. They're about 20 feet apart in this intimate dinner. And he looks great. This is classic, right? Like, he's like, this is a great picture. He's got the 1,000-watt smile. And she looks terrible. Why would he do this?
I can tell you, Megyn, if I posted that photo, I certainly wouldn't be dating Jennifer Aniston.
You'd be a dead man?
I'd be a dead man.
And I've only been married a year, but I've already learned you take the photos, you show it to the wife, and then you distribute it.
Well, no.
It's simple.
The way it works is you take the photo, you show it to the wife, you retake the photo, and then you get and then there's always a couple of.
You got to get the principal to sign off.
Yeah.
But let me ask you for real, do you think this is true?
No. So here's the thing, and this is one other theory of the case. Maybe Jennifer Aniston is the Biden's answer to George Clooney here, right? I mean, maybe this, because I'll be honest. I have heard this sort of thing rumbling around in DC, and there's some connections there with the people, what you would call reputable people, because they served in an administration. Maybe they served in the Obama administration. They certainly served in the Biden administration.
And that's the thing is, so the Bidens and the Obamas hate each other because Michelle Obama is very good friends with Hunter Biden's ex-wife. So that's led to a significant problem where they don't like Hunter. And if you don't like Hunter, Joe doesn't like you. So I would not be surprised if Holmes is right on with this of like, oh, well, why don't we do this?
It's like, oh, man, you give us problems, maybe you can have a problem or two.
Bingo.
But I'll tell you what.
Next level. Wait, just to be clear, you are suggesting that maybe there is something going on between Barack and Jennifer and the Bidens are leaking it.
That's my guess. That's my guess.
Could be.
I'll tell you what.
Go ahead, Ashbrook.
If it is true and he leaves Michelle Obama high and dry and she's dissatisfied, I cannot wait to learn about all of these secrets that Barack Obama has kept hidden over the years from Michelle Obama and her pals, because there's a whole past on Obama
the long tail
nobody has written about, but she could be a first person witness.
Here he is alone at the Trump inauguration, which really was stark. All these former presidents came in with their wives, and then there he was.
It was jarring.
All alone. It was jarring, wasn't it?
Yeah. I mean, just the spectacle of it all, and then seeing him alone. I mean, it really did. Like, just as a viewer, you knew she wasn't coming, but then you saw the visual of it, and you're like,
And then the Clintons were there together.
I mean,
the Clintons can be there together. What is going on with the Obamas?
And I talked about this with Maureen Callahan, but the fact that Michelle did not go to the Carter funeral, it really is kind of shocking, because she said, her team said she had an appointment. She had a scheduling conflict. Like, what could possibly be
for an inauguration,
a conflict that would keep you away as a Democrat from President Carter's funeral and then the inauguration? It's like, I don't, and somebody was it Maureen? Somebody was saying she's having plastic surgery, right? But then he posts that picture of the two of them where she wasn't having plastic surgery. So what the hell's going on?
And it's clearly not a partisan thing. Like, Michelle's not trying to resist, so she skipped the inauguration because she also skipped the Carter funeral. There's something happening there. There's something there.
They did a fist bump. I mean, that clears everything up, right?
I mean, there's, not to add insult to injury, but there's a Daily Mail report out today saying Kamala Harris's marriage may be on the rocks. Like, everybody's on the rocks. Again, I will say I love the Daily Mail, but the sourcing appeared weak. It was like people who know the couple, but like, I don't know if it's any better than that. But they're saying she's blaming him in part for her loss because he turned out to be such a hot mess liability. You buy it?
Oh my gosh. Well, we do know Dougie Emhoff's got a bit of a temper, right? I mean, there's some stuff that came there that was problematic. I also think, like, this is a guy who is so used to running his own world for so long, and then all of a sudden he's just sort of like basically a bag boy during the course of
Pretty
a
much.
6-month
Hold the
election.
purse and shut your mouth.
Like, I can't imagine that went over terribly well.
The second gentleman.
Yeah. It's everything.
I love the idea that it wasn't the economy or the open border or like Joe Biden being a dementia patient or like you going on The View and saying, I wouldn't change anything from the last 4 years. That isn't the reason you lost. It was Dougie. Oh, Dougie.
It was Doug and his
Yeah,
receding
I'm just
hair.
going to say, I'm all for marrying people named Doug, but she blew it somehow. I don't know. Okay, let's move on to the Oscars. And I'll tell the SiriusXM audience, I don't know if we're going to be able to get to the end of this before we say goodbye to you, but I'll keep you guys over for just a couple minutes if you give me a couple extra at the end, and we'll get it all in on podcast and YouTube. I'm into the Oscar situation. So as you saw, from Javier Milei with his firebrand speech at Davos to Trump and his firebrand speech at Davos to Trump's winning, Trump's executive order, the polls overwhelmingly showing that the American people feel we have, quote, gone too far to accommodate the transgender stuff. There's been a clear message sent, not just by Republicans, but by Democrats as well. Holly Weird hasn't received said message because the Oscar nominations came out today, you guys, and I know you're big theater critics, so I saved this for you. Among the people nominated for Best Actress in a leading role is a man. A man, I tell you. He used to be known up until he was like in his late 40s as Carlos Gascon. And now he goes by Carla Sofia Gascon. He is 52 years old and transitioned in 2016, so-called transitioned. And for this, he was rewarded with the lead role in this movie, Emilia Perez, which has been, I think, also nominated for Best Picture. And it's about a drug lord who's a Mexican, like, cartel boss, who's a male, who really wants to transition as a Mexican cartel drug boss and does so from male to female. And of course, this is like tailor-made for awards in Hollywood at the Golden Globes. Emilia Perez won for Best Picture, musical or comedy. I guess it's got music in it too. He called for trans people to stand up to bigotry. And now he has been nominated. He has taken one of the 5 coveted spots for Best Actress. Best Actress. So my basic take is all these Hollywood women deserve this, and I don't feel sorry for them. But what do you think?
Well, as you know, we take works of film very seriously here on the Ruthless Variety program.
I do.
And we exhibit most of our expertise through our resident thespian, Michael Duncan. Mm-hmm. So, Michael, I'd be curious as to your take on the arts writ large and whether it is comporting itself with the electorate that is now seemingly unwelcome to their advances.
Well, I don't think any of these films really comport with most of the electorate, if I'm being quite honest with you. I do love the idea of a transitioning cartel boss, though. I would love to know how that went down, like in the meeting with your capos and your consiglieres. Like, by the way, I want to be a woman. Like, I think that's actually pretty wild. So I'm sure it's an interesting story.
That would be the end of your time as the boss.
Yeah, right. But I mean, one movie that was actually nominated a bunch of times that I actually really enjoyed was Nosferatu, the remake of the old classic. It was fantastic. It's by that Eggers guy who did that witch movie. It's an A24 movie, which I know is a little more artsy. And,
you see, Megan? You see why we do this?
I didn't even understand anything you just said, Holmes.
The reason why I bring it up is Johnny Depp's daughter, Lily Rose Depp, in that movie is fantastic and definitely should have been nominated for Best Actress. And it's a shame that she wasn't.
He's not doing this ironically. This is
genuine.
This is a genuine review.
Yeah.
What was the name of the movie? The
Emilia Perez. That's the tranny.
Such a lost opportunity. You could have said cartel boss gets a little chapo.
Well done, Smug. Well done. Wait, just in case you didn't see it, I'll give you a little preview. Zoe Saldana's in it, among others. This, as I said, is apparently a musical, and we pulled a little from the movie, a little scene of, you watch.
Hello, very nice to meet you. I'd like to know about It's exchange operation.
I see. Men to woman, or woman to men.
Man to woman.
From penis to vagina.
Okay.
Is it for you?
I'm going to make this your ringtone.
What would you like to know about it, madam?
I want to know it all. What is the protocol? The techniques and the risks. How many operations? How much time do you need?
Mammoplasty.
Yes.
Vaginoplasty.
Yes.
Rhinoplasty.
Yes.
Laryngoplasty.
Nominated for an Oscar.
Mammoplasty.
Yes.
Vaginoplasty.
Yes.
Rhinoplasty.
Yes.
Laryngoplasty.
Yes.
Control laryngoplasty.
What is that?
Adam's apple reduction.
Yes.
The surest sign Jesus is coming.
Oh,
Here's the thing.
my God.
How's that not trolling? This is not satire. They're
No. We
love
checked.
to make a
We
movie
thought
just
this was
hearing
parody.
them.
It's real.
I want to make a movie that's just so blatant. That has to be a joke.
It feels like the South Park guys could have come up with that.
The other
It's
thing
real.
is, Robin Williams was robbed because his performance as Mrs. Doubtfire was unforgettable. So if anybody should have won an award, it's him.
Robin Williams, posthumous Best Actress.
How is a movie, right? Double check me, team. I think it's nominated for Best Picture with vaginoplasty, yes. Mammoplasty, yes. Rhinoplasty, yes. How is that nominated for Best Picture? How did it win Best Picture at the Globes? And how is a man probably about to win Best Picture in the actress category? Okay, so that's not it. Let me just show you. This person, Carla Sofia Gascon, at the Golden Globes in January, spoke after this movie won Best Picture in a musical, whatever, there. And here's what he said.
You can maybe put us in jail. You can beat us up, but you never can take away our soul, our existence, our identity. And I want to say to you, raise your voice and say, I am who I am.
Okay. No one's putting transgender people in jail for being transgender.
No.
That's not a thing.
Makes himself sound like he's Jim Valvano. Making the cancer cannot take my soul speech.
Right? He's on the stage accepting an award for Best Picture. Nobody feels sorry for you. It's ridiculous. And now, honestly, here are the other actresses, okay, nominated in the Best Actress category. Fernanda Torres from I'm Still Here. Demi Moore for The Substance, which I'm told is absolutely terrible. Cynthia, is it Erivo? She's from Wicked. She's the co-star in Wicked, across from, what's her name? Ariana Grande. And Mickey Madison for the movie Anora. So I don't know if he's the favorite, but you tell me. I feel like these women are probably really pro his presence in the Oscars and his presence in the movies, and not one of them will speak a word about the fact that an already very limited field, it's hard to get one of these nominations, is now even more limited because there is a man who was a man and presenting as a man all the way up to 2016 who's probably going to win.
It couldn't happen to a better group. We were pontificating between the breaks, Megyn, about whether or not this was just like the best joke of all time. Like whether or not this
picture,
entire project was
Keep going home. Sorry.
Whether or not this project was financed by like Leonard Leo or something like that, where they're like, I bet we can get the Academy to say,
it's conservative.
Like maybe they will recognize what is, of course, an entirely ironic presentation. Like that song in and of itself really did look like a Matt Stone South Park like production. You know?
Like remember when Peter Boghossian and his pals came up with those fake papers like, is my dog a racist? And all these colleges published them and then they revealed it was a hoax. Like that.
Is
That's
this
what you're
like
saying.
Matt Walsh's secret movie? Like,
Yeah.
Is he actually behind this?
That like definitively breaks the Academy Awards because they've just like fallen for the.
Okay, so
Bill
I'm not
Clinton.
done. It's not just that movie and this guy. Now I'm kind of rooting for him. I hope he wins. I really do. I hope he wins the whole thing. I'm going to try to vote. I don't know if I'm a member of the Academy. You know, I'm an actress now. I'm in SAG thanks to my appearance in Mr. Percham. Yeah, I was a cartoon star. You may have missed it. It's possible. Anyway, that's not the only controversial thing going on in the Oscars. Here is a clip of one of the Best Actor nominees. See if this looks familiar to you.
Listen, Judy, about 100 reporters were crawling up my ass to get this interview, and I gave you the exclusive. Yes, hello, Judy. This is Donald Trump. I'm very excited to talk to you.
Be excited. Donald, now that the lawsuit is behind you, what do you want to do next?
Well, I intend to acquire the Commodore, and I'm planning on making it the best and the finest building in the city, maybe the country, in the world. Judy, in the world, it's going to be the finest building in the world. It's going to be a spectacular hotel, absolutely spectacular, first class, and...
That sounds very ambitious. Where do you get the drive? You're still so young, Donald.
I got flair and I'm smart, so I think that's going to make me successful. But I also want to stay humble. Sorry, Judy. Listen, let's do the rest in person and bring a photographer, okay? Sorry, all right. No, I mean, listen, it's your life. You got a ways to go, but you're learning.
My God. Both of those guys nominated. The guy who plays Trump, Sebastian Stan, as Best Actor. Jeremy Strong of Succession fame, nominated for Best Supporting Actor in a movie nobody saw and nobody liked. But they mocked Donald Trump, so you're in.
Duh. It's incredible, right? They're just so predictable. Also, it seems to be a prerequisite, the unwatched movie.
Yep.
Like, it seems like the last, I grew up, you'd watch the Academy Awards with your parents. I remember doing that, and you'd see all the movies and be like, oh, we need to see this. We need to see that. It's been like basically my entire adult life where like I never watch it, but if I ever like stumble through it, and you see it on TV, you look at the nominees, and I have no idea what any of that is.
And it's sort of ironic, right, that the distribution of media and films has become so broad and so easy to access, and the Academy's focus has become so narrow and obscure.
Yeah.
It's a great point. Think about that. Think about how much harder it was to see the Oscar films 30 years ago, but we all did. We saw the ones that got nominated. Now it's like there's no chance.
Oh, it was like Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Like Schindler's List, Braveheart, like these were films that won and had huge audiences. What a wild business model for Hollywood to try to turn a profit. Now, when it's easier than ever to get your film in front of people's eyeballs, they could stream it. Still, people choose not to watch this, and they're like, oh, because it's too good of art.
Tom Hanks would have had to transition midway through in order to get a nomination.
It's just like, you're right. You've never even heard of these actors, and you've never even heard of these movies, and they're just like smaller and smaller and smaller, as is the audience. Guys, thank you. Thank you all for being here. Great to see you.
Thank
You're
you.
the best.
Thank you so much.
All right. And before we go, I want to tell the audience the Ruthless guys had to run. But one more thing on the Oscars. Of course, Conclave got nominated. Of course they nominated Conclave for Best Picture. The one that mocks the Catholics. Spoiler alert. Okay, I hope you don't see Conclave. And I think you probably already know the spoiler if you listen to this show. But it's about the Pope and choosing a new Pope and the conclave that the Catholic cardinals have. And big reveal at the end, they choose a Pope who's secretly a woman, who's so-called intersex. And here's a little bit of that.
The truth is, there simply was no reason to think I was physically different from the other young men. Then, in my late 30s, I had a surgery to remove my appendix. And that was when the doctors discovered that I had a uterus and ovaries. Some would say my chromosomes would define me as being a woman, and yet I'm also, as you see me.
All right, so Ray Fiennes, he's nominated for Best Actor. This film of course, will be celebrated because they mock the Catholic Church. Ha ha, joke's on you. You have a female priest. And don't take my word for it, because if you watch the thing, it's all about Stanley Tucci as a bishop who appears to be from New York, or a cardinal, saying like, I will not abandon my position that we need more women's rights in the church. You know, he's one of these leftist Catholics who's trying to take a stand, and they lionize him, and they make a mockery out of the Italian cardinal who's more conservative and who's more traditional, and they make him into a fool, a buffoon. And that's what they do to the entire Catholic Church by making, surprise, their new pope into a woman. Okay, it's just ridiculous. So you can see exactly what they're doing. This is their night to stand up and celebrate how much they hate Catholics, how much they believe men can become women, and how much they hate Donald Trump. Whether they say it explicitly or not, perhaps there will be a directive not to make the speeches political. Much like the Golden Globes, the underlying content that will be rewarded that night tells everybody who is right of center they can't stand you. Maybe keep that in mind when you're deciding whether or not to watch it. Thank you guys for watching. We are back tomorrow with Piers Morgan and more. See you then.